It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Manny the Martyr. And now, on with the show!
Hey there, everybody. It's the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast. My name is Thomas Chick, and joining me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey, gang.
Les Webster.
Hello, all.
And Liz Newman.
Hello, everybody.
How are you guys doing?
Amazing.
Smooth as silk.
Since last night, doing great.
Hope everybody out there is doing well. So, what's been going on in your corner of the galaxy?
Damn.
Didn't mean to stump you right off the bat.
I have to think. I don't really have anything. What you got that I can steal?
Oh, gosh.
No, I've just been rough week, I think, for America. I've kind of tried to stay away from the TV. So I've been watching a lot of movies, comedies, that kind of thing. So, yeah, keeping busy.
I can't imagine why you would want to stay away from mainstream media this week. I mean, geez.
Right. I mean, they say it's over, but then other people are like, oh, no, it's not over. And it's like, oh, it's over. It's over. We're done.
Well, okay, us being done and it being over are two different things.
Right.
Good point.
We are definitely done, but technically, it's not over.
Yeah.
It is pretty much over. All the votes are in, as it were. Whether all the accountants and whatever have their ducks in a row, who knows? But
it's just, yeah. And I guess I wouldn't be Liz if I didn't say it. Whether your guy won or not, we're going to have to start repairing and being a little nicer to each other. And, the last 4 years have been hell. And we just need to take a break. I mean, go ahead, do your dancing, but take a break, take a breather. Because we've got so much work on our hands, So, be kind. Love one another. We're in this shit show together.
right. I mean, if nothing else, we got to start learning to fake it better.
Yes.
For crying out loud. I don't know where in the hell we lost that skill, but geez.
I don't know. Looking at how many votes were put in, it seems like a lot of people were good at faking. Oh. But yeah, like I said, I really don't care. Neither one of my guys was really ever in the running, but we've got a long haul against this, and we've got a lot of repairing to do and a lot of loving to do. 6 feet apart with your mask on, but yeah, I'm just glad that now we can say there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Maybe. Maybe. So, yeah. Oh, and also I said I was going to announce it on air. Troy won our trivia contest. So Yay. He received a $25 gift certificate to Amazon from us. So I talked to him a little bit afterwards, and he's got good plans to already spend it. So, yay. There you go. So now we've got our casting call. There's no prize for that, but we will talk about your picks. So
By the way, you have to be on the Discord to do all these things,
Oh yeah.
which is honestly a very small price to pay. So
Mhm.
try to think about it that way and go sign up.
Yep. It's all free.
Yep.
So.
Don't cost you nothing but a few minutes to sign up for an account.
Yep.
It's pretty
And
easy.
a lot of people are. I mean, we're comics, we're geeks, right? A lot of people are introvert, and it's not that kind of forums. It's very laid back, and people are nice. I've never seen a mean word said to anybody, even when it wasn't the same opinion being talked about. So don't be scared. Come join us. Come talk to us. It's fun.
Yep. So at this point, we've got a pretty dang civil group of folks here, so
Yep.
it's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool.
And you can find an invite on our homepage, website, www.thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. There you go.
You
Yep.
can. Big old banner.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Cool.
So my thing, this week's thing, I finally got to play D&D again for the first time in months. And it was
Ooh.
just today, so my brain is a little bit mush, but that's okay. We're still going to have fun because I get excited about tonight's topic, so
Yep.
it'll be good. But yeah, I'm excited. We actually got together in person for the first time in at least 8 months. I am not exactly sure at this point. I don't remember exactly. It was not long before the lockdown started, but it was before that. So, I mean, I want to say it was like February or so.
I was about to say it was in February or early March.
Yeah, it was somewhere in there. Lots of things have changed and there are 5 of us. And lots of things have changed in all of our lives. So it was good to finally get to see faces again and
Catch up.
catch up a little bit. Yep.
Yep. It's cool.
Yep.
Very nice. For me, I'm kind of in Liz's corner. Not much happened, which is kind of welcome.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So, other than hear my wife rail at the TV, everything's good here.
Is she railing at what she watches, or is she railing at what you watch?
Definitely
Probably
what she's watching.
Not a whole heck of a lot on my end. The Discord's already been mentioned. We had an impromptu movie night last night. We happened to watch Duck Soup, starring Marx Brothers, which of course was timely because of the latest episode, or last week's episode, and we all kind of needed to have a laugh and have a good time. So it was fun.
Yeah.
So that's something else that we are doing with our Discord, is having some movie nights in our virtual meet and gabs. Just join up to the voice channel and kind of talk and say, hey, how's things going, and kind of discussing some of the things that are going on in pop culture, whether it's movies or comics or novels, whatever. So that's another reason to join us. So yeah, not a whole heck of a lot.
It occurs to me that part of why we don't have a whole lot this week is because we really only recorded like 4 days ago.
Well, that has something
So
to do.
I think that might be biasing us a little bit. So there we go. We had to record late last week. We're actually on time for a change this week. So yeah, just a little weird gap thing there.
Yeah.
Peeling back the curtain a bit.
Yeah. So, well, I would discuss the Discord, but that's already been kind of discussed, where you can find an invite. We do have special things planned and kind of going on currently. We do post news items that are going on, and have some discussions about that and a lot of fun stuff. I regularly post memes, Liz posts memes, and then have some activities that are where we can all kind of participate, as well as maybe a movie night or our virtual meet and chat. So definitely go check that out. Once again, that's www.thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. Right there on the homepage, you'll see Join Our Discord. Just click on that. If you don't have a Discord account, as Mikey said, it's free, it's easy, and it's pretty easy to maneuver around. So it's fun. Okay. For this week's discussion, it had come to my attention that 25 years ago, November 17th was a wide release. The first James Bond movie in several years, 6 years, I believe. Goldeneye. This is the first one featuring Pierce Brosnan. So for this week, we kind of wanted to discuss the movie and discuss the Brosnan era of 007. And I'm gonna go ahead and give it to Mike because Mike is the big James Bond fan of the group.
Do you want your theme song first? Da 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 da.
Yeah, DCM was it DMCAS, whatever it is.
Yeah, don't get us busted for nothing like that. Jeez.
Copyright music.
Hey,
No, it's not.
that was my own iteration, so I played it in band.
That was the cover version right there. Not the real deal. Yeah. See, this is we're jumping into this at a point where it's kind of hard for me to know where to start. I mean, I guess I'll start specifically with GoldenEye. I really liked GoldenEye.
Me too.
It's a very fun movie. It's also interestingly like the first one that is completely original. There are no elements other than the title. There are no elements from it, or there are no elements in it that come from Ian Fleming at all. It is all completely invented, which I think actually worked out pretty well given kind of the transition that they were going through with the new Bond. Not the first new Bond, obviously, but Brosnan was an interesting one because he was one they had wanted for a long time.
Right.
And there were continuous reasons why he couldn't do it. He couldn't do it. They finally got him. And I thought this one knocked it out of the park. This is honestly one of my favorite Bond movies. Because he's just so good as Bond.
Yeah.
And I was certainly glad they managed to get 4 movies out of him. So we could get a decent kind of experience with him as Bond. Admittedly, I will also admit that this is definitely, in my opinion, the best of his 4 movies. Kind of by a ways.
It is.
They dropped off in quality a bit, but that ended up kind of being the way it worked with new Bonds. More notwithstanding, the first one tended to be the best of the bunch, and they tended to slip off a little bit from there. And then you get a new Bond, and then there's a really good one, and then the quality kind of slips again. But in my opinion, even a bad Bond movie is a cool, fun action movie. So it's all good.
The thing I like about Bond movies is it starts off right away. You know what the hell is going on. There's no guessing or nothing. It starts off on action and it ends on action. It ends on action. Well, chicken, wow. Would it be Bond if it didn't? I liked this one. GoldenEye at first, before I watched the movie, of course, long time ago, I thought GoldenEye was going to be a person. And if you haven't seen the Bond films, or this one in particular, GoldenEye is not a person. It's actually like a program that links up satellites and takes out like anything with electricity. Airplanes, watches, satellites, everything. It was kind of cool because at the beginning of this, they dealt with the hackers, which, anything computer related, it's like, ooh, that's kind of cool. One girl makes it out, wasn't supposed to make it out, and then she finds out that actually one of her programmers is a traitor. So it's pretty cool. I liked, like I said, it starts off with action. It was action all the way through. It was pretty bad news. And of course, all of this was myth. I think the coolest part about this whole thing was at the very end when they're trying to find that last satellite, and they like drove over this lake and in a helicopter over and over and over, and they're like, we just don't see it. There's nothing out here. Maybe we were wrong, And then this thing comes up out of the water, which was cool because if you kept an eye on things, they actually used reverse motion for that scene. And you can really tell that because everything was dry.
Uh-huh.
But it was still a pretty cool effect. I wasn't expecting his friend to be a double crosser. Spoiler. Which, that's in the first, 20 minutes of the movie you find that out. He died, but he didn't die.
So, let's be realistic.
Let's
be realistic. It was Sean Bean. He had to die. Come on. This was actually like the beginning of his string of movies where he dies in everything. Yeah.
Everything. Yeah. He did make it quite a while, though.
He did. Almost all the way through the movie, huh?
Yeah, almost.
Spoilers again for a 25-year-old movie, but.
Right. But yeah, I really liked this one. Like I said, it was definitely. They said though that the reason that they changed the formula up on the second movie, though, I can't remember the name right off the top of my head, though, was because a lot of fans complained in GoldenEye that Bond didn't use a lot of his gadgets like the other ones had. So they were like, for the second one, we've really got to play up the gadgets because that's what they complained about in the first one. So I think by doing that, it did kind of change the formula up because a lot of this, he was like a badass MacGyver, Oh, here's a paperclip. We can get out of here. So it was pretty cool. Not saying I didn't like the other ones, but it was kind of cool to see him more hands-on, and I guess it's tactful when you have to use your brain instead of weapons. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Right. Yeah, it was Tomorrow Never Dies was the second one with Brosnan.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the one that actually threw me a little bit because GoldenEye was definitely, it was definitely more of an action movie. Mm-hmm. Oh, man, I just couldn't shake the idea in Tomorrow Never Dies that it was honestly more sci-fi than action because of the gadgets. There were so many gadgets, and they were really cool gadgets.
Yeah.
But holy cow, there were a lot. The movie was almost driven by the gadgets, and it was just a little much. But yeah, so I've always kind of Brosnan for me. I always kind of think of as the sci-fi Bond a little bit because of that.
Yeah.
Because they managed to keep up in the ante on the gadgets for all four of the movies, and I don't necessarily view that as a bad thing. But like I said, I liked him as Bond a lot. But.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's neater to see him figure things out than to have a grappling hook on his belt buckle or something, though,
Right. It's more fun to see him steal a tank in the middle of Moscow than to have his friggin' BMW show up flying like something out of Blade Runner to pick him up, which is kind of almost what happened in the next movie. And I'm like, yeah, okay.
But I have to agree with that girl. I don't think I'd ever travel with Bond.
It's very dangerous.
Very, very dangerous.
I mean, if you get the idea that Bond is a secret agent, then you've missed the point. Bond is not a secret agent.
Oh,
Bond is a fuse, and he's
Yeah.
lit. And whatever they send him in when the only solution is to blow it up.
Yep.
He's just an explosion in a bottle, and that's fine. That's great. It makes for awesome action, and it has made for awesome action for a lot of movies now.
Hmm.
But yeah, don't get the idea that that's what secret agent is like, because it ain't. Ain't nothing secret about Bond.
No.
Nothing.
Especially when he uses his own name,
Right.
over and over and over.
Constantly.
Yep.
Yep. Speaking of names, I dropped the Sean Bean thing. The programmer you talked about, the trader programmer,
Hmm.
that would be a young Alan Cumming,
that's right.
Ah.
who has gone on to have a really nice career of his own. So
Yeah.
That's right.
he's done a lot of cool stuff.
Well, it's funny. It just dawned on me. You have Alan Cumming, and y'all also have Femke
Jansen.
Jansen.
Mm-hmm.
So you have two members of the X-Men in this
Oh
film.
yeah, they reunited later on for X-Men. I think Nightcrawler didn't show up until
The second one.
Was it the second one? Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say it was second or third, but yeah.
Yeah.
But they worked together for a couple of movies then.
I like this movie. I've liked Brosnan as Bond. I always thought that was such a great idea, and then to find out sometime later that they wanted him as far back as to replace Moore, which didn't work out due to his commitment to Remington Steele. So they went with Dalton, which it's not a bad choice. It just kind of wish the scripts were a little bit better, but you can say that for a lot of the Bond actors, But yeah, I mean, it was a nice ride with these 4 films, and I appreciate them. Yeah, I don't particularly enjoy all of them. Like you said, that they kind of go downhill after this one in terms of just however you want to call it, consider it, whether a script quality or whatever. But they are fun films. I was so glad to see Brosnan as Bond.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that had been a long time coming.
Yeah. Well, and then if you read, and I'm sure you already knew some of this, just the hell that it went through just to be able to do this film. Because, like I said, there was like a 6-year break because there was lawsuits, and then there was the whole thing with, we want to bring Dalton back because we've already got him signed to do, I don't remember how many films, but he was only wanting to do one more once the things kind of cleared up, and they didn't really want to do a film with one Bond and then turn around and have to recast. They kind of, they wanted to start with, wanted to start this run again. They wanted to make sure they had someone who can be around for a half a dozen movies or so. So we almost got another Dalton film if things had worked out. But it's just it was, from what I had read, it was just a nightmare.
Yeah, because wasn't all that legal stuff? Wasn't that all the same stuff as the deal with Never Say Never Again? I think all of that fight was still going on because the deal was, and I don't remember names, and it's been a while since I saw the documentary I watched, but one of the other producer, because there was the Broccolis, and then there was another guy. The other guy kind of left and was quiet for a few years, but then got a bee in his bonnet and decided he owned the rights to essentially the Thunderball story. And so he remade it and made it into a movie. got Sean Connery to come in. This is 86 or thereabouts.
Yeah, because it came out right around the same time Octopussy came out.
Yeah, it was right in there.
Yeah.
So this is 10 years after Connery played Bond the last time, or more, and
Yeah.
they just 15 even. And so they just made a movie, and since they couldn't call it Thunderball because the Broccolis owned the rights to the title, basically, or whatever. They knew they were going to get sued if they called it that. So they retitled it, Never Say Never Again, and remade that. I think they tweaked the script a little bit. It wasn't much. Remade the movie and completely pissed off the Broccolis in the process because they're like, wait a minute, that's our character. You can't do that. And they're like, no, we own this story. And if I remember correctly, that lawsuit went on for like 10 years or close to it. And it ended up shutting down production for the regular Bond movies because once it gets into the courts, they kind of can't do anything with it. And then so you get in the situation where it's 3, 4, 5 years down the line, you still can't even start making a new Bond movie. Not surprisingly, Timothy Dalton, who had quite a career before he became Bond, is like, I need to get on with my life here.
Yeah.
And so he walked away. And yeah, once they finally got it all nailed down in like 93 or 94, and started putting together GoldenEye. And by then, Brosnan, who they had wanted for, actually, I think it was The Living Daylights. I think that they wanted him when they ended up picking Dalton because they couldn't hammer out a deal. I think the deal was they didn't want to share Brosnan with NBC because of Remington Steele. They were like, well, no, if we're going to have him, we want him all the way. If he's still under contract for something else, we don't want him, which was a huge mistake, honestly, but whatever.
Yeah.
So they finally got it all nailed down, got Dalton in there, and then, but so when he was available in, 94, when they started working on this thing, they snatched him up. And he finally got to do the role that, I don't want to say he was born for that role, but he was a natural selection for it.
Yeah.
Les, your thoughts?
It's been a while since I've seen this, but I don't remember that it was set up so quickly that that GoldenEye was going to be used to rob the banks in London.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't told to me till toward the very end of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, they dragged me through this movie, and it was a good movie, but they led me through this movie, and I didn't know exactly what was transpiring. It caused me to turn up the volume a lot when the characters are talking because they had such bad accents that to try to figure out exactly what they were saying, I had to crank it up.
Closed captioning.
And by bad, I'm assuming you don't mean strong, you mean just terrible. Because some of the accents in this movie were terrible.
Yeah.
Yes, Famke Janssen was horrendous.
Yeah, that accent was awful.
The idea of the radar disc being in the lake was interesting, but we had already done something like that in one of the previous Bond movies, did we not?
Yes, You Only Live Twice.
Where it was
in a volcano thing, yeah.
Volcano. Right. And where does it say that everything has to be in a super modernized lair of the bad guy and you go in and you destroy all his computers and stuff. This is almost every Bond movie. I like Bond movies. I was there for the opening weekend of the first Bond movie. Loved it. But it became just so trite to have the same idea carry through and say they're trying to take over the world with a computer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's go. And I don't know that I have not read all that much Bond, but I don't recall that everything had to be based on computers because computers weren't around.
Mm-hmm.
When the novels were written, absolutely not. You're right.
Well, if you also think about it, in '95, we were as tech as we are today in 2020. It was a scary. I mean, look how crazy people went at the turn of the millennium with Y2K. They're always afraid that technology is going to turn on us. So why not it be the end of the world?
Well, and also this movie was made right around the time of the fall of the Soviet Union. So
Yes.
what you got? I mean, one of the early scenes in that movie is is kind of a scene of a black market location.
Bizarre.
Yeah. I think the first word that
Flea
popped in my head
market.
was festival, but that's not the right word. But yeah, and so at that time when you've got all of that Soviet tech, I mean, not all of it, but a lot of Soviet tech flooding into the black market. Yeah, I mean, that's something that can upset the world economy a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah. And funny thing, you mentioned the bank robbery, Les. And you talk about how much this kind of does rob from previous Bond films. The funny thing about the bank robbery is the novel Moonraker, which has absolutely nothing to do with the film Moonraker. The story in the novel was this guy had stolen or built, I can't remember which off the top of my head, it's been a while since I read it, a couple of missiles, basically intercontinental missiles. And his plan was he was going to nuke London to basically rob the bank, to destroy the economy.
See, I kind of took the money was like secondary. It was more of setting them back of no bank records, no debt records, no,
Yeah,
no
destroying the
nothing.
economy.
Yeah, it just totally leveling it. To them, I think the money was a bonus, but it wasn't the motive, like a bank robbery is,
Well, right, but the whole deal was that they had stolen a whole bunch of gold already,
Yeah.
which was also ripped off from a previous Bond movie. Hey, and when I said this was original, I didn't mean that they had never that any of this was brand new invented. This was all cobbled together from previous stories, no doubt. But yeah, I mean, obviously Goldfinger was the one where they robbed Fort Knox and stole all the gold, or screwed with the gold to make it unusable. But yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're definitely piecing together bits of other older stories and variations on stories they hadn't used before, and yeah. But it's pretty.
Yeah.
It's a fun. They turn a fun action movie out of it, but yeah, they did piece together little bits of things to kind of cobble a story together, which is, if you think too hard about it, is a little off-putting. My plan is that when I go into a movie like this, I don't try to think about the story. I don't care. I mean, when they do get to where they're creating stories, it gets really convoluted anyway. So, you know.
It was really good to hear Tina Turner singing again. It's been a while since I've heard her. Kind of threw me for a loop.
Oh, I forgot she did the song for this.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of, I'm watching this, right? And the opening theme, there's a bunch of naked women dancing on guns, right? Phil walks in and he goes, "Oh, that's a Walther PPK. What are you watching?" I was like, there's 8 naked women on the screen, and your first thing is that's what kind of gun it is. That's who I'm married to. And I had to look it up, and he was right.
You had to look it up.
Like, damn. It was like, those guys, some guys are, "Oh, that's a Mustang." No. My husband, that's a Walther.
Yeah, that's not that's hot. That's a hot chick. No,
Yeah.
that's a Walter PPK.
Yeah.
Well,
Or there's naked women all over the screen. What the hell are you watching? No, it wasn't that either.
Wait, is that Susan?
I used to date a girl that looked like that. Wait, what?
Oh, man. But they always have cool intros, so. But for the second movie, did you know that the intro is actually what caused 2 directors to walk off a Bond film? They did not like that Sheryl Crow was singing it.
Really?
And they didn't, like that creative control, because, everybody knows the openings to the Bond films. They didn't like that creative control was taken away from them. Because on this one, they actually had a contest to see who would sing the song. And the first person who won, they loved the song, but the band wasn't really well known. So they were like, "Well, how about we use your song?" And they were going to let another group sing it. And they were like, "No." So Sheryl Crow was the only one. She was actually their third choice. Out of 4 winners, she was the third choice that they stuck with. And I don't think it was her song. It was the second pick's song. So it wasn't even her song. But, yeah, 2 directors walked off of it. They're like, "Nope.
Weird.
You got your idea, then do it."
Who did the outro music? At the end of the movie, who was singing that?
I think that's actually their first pick. Because they said that the first song that they wanted to use is peppered also through the second movie. So I'm wanting to say that was the first pick. What was their names? It starts with a D. That was Tomorrow Never Dies, right? No. What was the second one?
Tomorrow Never Dies was the second
Yeah.
one.
Okay.
Tell you the truth, I found that more interesting than Tina Turner. It's a nice, softer beat.
Yeah.
It wasn't. A lot of movies make you listen. They want you to listen, so they make you listen by making the song, well, not. I don't want to say not listenable, but boy, this one was damn close to it.
Yeah, David Arnold was the guy who scored it.
Mm-hmm. And the guy who scored the first one was the one who was like, I guess when you have people who make the music, kind of like Danny Elfman, it'd be like Tim Burton going in and going, "All right, Danny, you go ahead and you do this, but we want you to play this guy's music to do this. You just direct it, but you can no longer write it, or, here's your sheet music." Someone like him would be going like, "What? This is what I'm paid for, Yeah. I could see that kind of being upset,
You'd think, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And who played the girl strangling the cat?
Oh, that was Minnie Driver.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. That was an
And
early
she
role
can
for
sing.
her, too. Yes, she can.
Yeah. She couldn't in that one, but.
Well, I think they brought her in because she could sing, so that she could intentionally
Fake
not sing. Yeah.
Yeah.
She can intentionally sing very poorly with a bad accent.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she hit on all bars on that. That's for sure.
Oh yeah. She wasn't in that movie very long, but she made a big impact.
Mm-hmm.
Another actually a returning co-star was Jodan Baker, who got to be on the good guy side this time because
True.
he was one of the bad guys in The Living Daylights, and then came on to be the CIA contact here, the Felix Leiter type.
Was that the guy who walked with a limp because of Bond?
No. That was oh God, what was his?
Robbie Coltrane.
That was Robbie Coltrane.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, who I also thought did a really good job. He came back.
Mm-hmm.
He was in. Was it
2 and 3 too?
I was gonna say there was at least one more in that series.
And it leads you to believe that he died in the 3rd. Like I said, I haven't rewatched the 4th yet, so.
Yeah, I don't remember him coming back in the 4th one.
Electra shot him.
Yeah.
And I had her pegged at the very beginning of that movie.
Oh, sure.
I mean, that was...
I mean, it was fun to pin it all on Robbie Carlyle there for a while, but...
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
And I did not recognize him. I watched all these on Amazon, and I do the X-ray, and I saw that, that was him, and it was like, oh my God, that's Rumpelstiltskin. He shaved his head. Because that role for me will always be what I remember him by.
Obviously, because I think he brought that up before.
He owned that part, kind of like he did this one. He owned that part.
Yeah, that was a weird. He did. I thought he did a nice job with what he did, but that character was the one that lost this movie for me. The World Is Not Enough. I just didn't like it, and honestly, he was part of the reason why. And it wasn't that he couldn't. It wasn't that he wasn't doing a good job with it. It was just the character itself was just bad. I just didn't like it at all. I mean, okay. So what? How else can we screw with Bond in this series? Okay, we'll just put him up against this guy who he can't hurt, no matter what he does.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, we're going to start Bond out with a shoulder injury, which is going to come back to haunt him the whole movie. Yeah. I didn't like it.
Mm-mm.
It was just a weird dynamic that didn't fit a Bond movie, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And it was weird because the part that Robert Carlyle played, you could have taken him out of this movie, and you never would have noticed there should have been a character there.
Right.
Until the very end, of course. But it was kind of like
sequence.
It was secondary. It was kind of like, oh shit, she's got to have a motive for doing this, and they threw him in there.
Right. So we'll just throw a little Stockholm syndrome into this.
Yeah.
Really? Wow.
Which
so
I thought
we can't
was
just let her be evil, can we? We have to make her a victim. Why is that?
Yeah. Because it's a girl.
Right.
The guy, they wouldn't have done that,
Right. Not for a second. But she's got a. It's just like I said, didn't work on a lot of levels.
Mm-mm.
When did the Weapons Master become such a joke?
When John Cleese took it over?
No, it was before that, unfortunately.
In this one, they were claiming it, and I was not happy with that. They made him look like a buffoon, and I have no reason that I'm going to say anything different. I think that they made a mistake. He was in the Connery movies. The character was played very upright, and he would trade barbs. But in this movie, they just made him the buffoon.
Kind of crotchety.
When Bond walks in and sees him with a cast on his leg, he shoots a rocket out of the cast. He misses the target, but let's make sure that it's seen by everyone. and no one makes a comment about it. In fact, in that whole scene, everybody working there was a buffoon. The guy that goes into the telephone booth.
Yeah.
The guys that are working on his car and the parachute comes out. What? What are you doing?
And they're supposed to be top of the line. I see Bond kind of like Batman. And that guy's supposed to be his Lucius.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Smart and state of the art because you know all this stuff. And
the kicker is that it was a very gradual change over time. He very slowly, and I honestly, it probably took its biggest leap within the Roger Moore years, because there was always, I mean, say what you will about any of the other Bonds, I mean, especially Connery, Moore's Bond was the one who engaged Q more, and so there was more back and forth, and so it got to be sort of a weird little rivalry thing, and it just progressively got more and more silly throughout those movies until you get to basically the end, and it's just, yeah, like you said, he's practically just a buffoon. It was probably, and on top of that, he's like in his 80s or something at the time, and it's just almost ridiculous for him to still be there. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd love Desmond Llewellyn, but damn, yeah, he should have stopped. They should have stopped like in the mid 80s somewhere. They should have just gotten somebody else.
well, they said in these that they were actually going to do the retirement segment in the second one because he was getting old and they didn't know if he would do another one. And he agreed. So they said by the third one, they really had to push the retirement thing and, you know, kind of get his goodbye and introduce someone else.
Right, and I still don't know why they felt the need to bring in John Cleese as the replacement, but whatever. I mean, I also love John Cleese, but, oh man, I don't know that was the way to go.
I think they were looking for, like, comic relief.
Right, which, again, was probably a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
They really should not have been doing that.
I agree.
Yeah. It just made it all awkward.
Yeah. I have a funny story about James Bond I have to tell.
Okay.
My oldest son's name is James, and in 4th grade, he was absolutely, totally in love with James Bond, even to the point where in school he would write James Bond on his papers. And if he forgot to put his name on his paper, his teacher would write in James Bond.
Dang.
So, yeah. So James was James Bond for a couple of years. But now you can ask him what his name is, and he's like, Wobble. James Wobble. But I thought that was funny. Not too many teachers encourage imagination the way that she did.
That's cool.
That is pretty cool.
It'd be nice.
It's good that she could do that.
Did, right?
Yeah. She was a good one. And her name was Miss King. She was a good one. And I brought the show to a halt. Damn it, James.
Yeah, it wasn't you. It was your son that brought it to a halt. Come on now. Let's be realistic here.
He's probably at home right now going, ooh, I just felt a cold chill.
Oops.
Yeah, a podcast just walked across my path. I don't know.
I mean, these were really good. I liked his era.
Yeah, I mean, there's something fun or redeemable about all of them.
And I always thought if he ever got hurt and they needed like a replacement, Charles Shaughnessy? Shaughnessy?
Shaughnessy?
Yeah. He was the guy, Maxwell on The Nanny.
Yeah.
I always thought he looked just like Pierce Bronson.
Oh, yeah, a
Yeah.
bit. I can see where you're coming from. And I mean, the
The
accent and
accent.
everything.
Yep.
There were a ton of people that tried out to play Bond. Jeez.
And I think him and Pearson great at the same time too. So
Yeah, they had enough trouble getting Brosnan away from a TV contract. I don't know if they were keen to try that again.
yeah.
Right.
No, and as much as I like Charles, I don't think he would have had the acting chops for a movie like this.
Probably not.
No. I mean, he was on my soap opera for years as Shane. So, yeah. Usually it's hard to go from a soap opera leap to a movie, you know. Pretty much banned to TV at that point.
Yep. And I mean, part of the deal with GoldenEye is that if they, the original kind of backup, if Dalton didn't come back, was Sean Bean. I mean, and
Yeah.
when Brosnan became available, and they just kind of kicked Bean at least they didn't just kick him to the curb. I will give them that. They found a role for him.
We'll kill him off gracefully.
I thought he did a really nice job in that movie too. So
He did.
the other one that I was always a little disappointed we didn't get to see was Sam Neill.
Yeah.
Because he tried out when Dalton did and lost it out to Dalton. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like Timothy Dalton. He is a different kind of Bond for sure, but I like him. And that was another one. I liked The Living Daylights a lot. That was, I thought, a really fun movie. It was way better than the last 2 or 3 Roger Moore movies. So there was that. Then the second one kind of stank.
Yeah.
License to Kill.
Mm-hmm. Not a favorite of mine. I mean, I'll watch it if it's on, but it's not a favorite. There was just a lot of not Bond-like things about the story.
And it's funny how Dalton and Brosnan were pursued for several years because they were looking at Dalton to replace Connery.
Yeah.
But Dalton thought he was too young, so they went with Lazenby.
Yep. And he turned it down again.
Yep.
In 79.
I think so.
Dalton. Yeah, he turned it down in 70-ish, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And then turned it down again in 79. Because at that point he decided he didn't like the character anymore. Basically. And they ended up keeping Moore anyway at that point. But yeah.
So who's y'all's favorite Bond?
It seems like everybody's waiting for somebody else to answer on that one.
Go ahead, Les.
My favorite is the guy that sang with Darby O'Gill.
There's a callback.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's also the guy we talked about last week for unpleasant reasons. But yeah. How about you, Thomas?
I would go with Connery as well, but Brosnan's like right there. It's like a 1A, 1B.
The problem I had with Brosnan was you would sit there and the opening would be there for a joke, and it wouldn't come, and it wouldn't come, and it wouldn't come. And I thought, aren't you supposed to be cracking something to make it funny, to take the pressure off? But it just didn't show up as it should.
Well,
You didn't think he was funny enough?
I didn't think his one-liner was there fast enough, or it never even showed.
Mm-hmm.
So you wanted more like Roger Moore?
So it was his timing that was weird. No,
No.
and I'm not knocking it. I'm just, I mean, I agree that it was a little different with him, for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know about Moore. I would say that he was not like Connery, because Connery would just kind of curl his lip and say something, and people go, oh, this guy would make you hang on every edge and not say a word. That's where I had the problem.
Yeah, I agree. I think part of that for me is that he was kind of a turning point. I think he started the trend of taking Bond a little darker. And I suspect that that was as much a factor of the 1995 thing as anything else. But yeah, I think that was a script thing. I'm not sure that was a Brosnan thing. My take. That's all. It's just my suggestion. But yeah, I agree that it was different at that point, for sure. I think, and this is actually sort of a backdoor answer to your question, Liz. You ask about favorite Bonds. I'm honestly going to straight up say I don't have a favorite Bond, because I think they're so different that I couldn't choose one over the other, because I mean it's hard to deny Connery, but you also have to remember Connery's Bond was a function of the 60s, which was a spillover from the 50s, which was very much, I mean, his humor almost wasn't humor. Connery was good not because he was funny, but because he was smooth. So in my mind, he's kind of the smooth Bond.
Yeah.
You move on, and I'm actually going to skip over Lazenby because the one movie, I mean, I think I won't necessarily skip him over, but he definitely brought it was a very different energy to the role. And I think they kind of got a variation on that with Roger Moore. Because Roger Moore, he's better with the jokes, for sure. And I think that honestly that's because he's got a little more charisma than Connery did. So in my brain, I relate, he's the charming one. Moore's the charming one. He was the one he had that distinct level of British charm and wit that he carried that Connery didn't have, probably because he wasn't necessarily straight up British.
Yeah.
If you move on from there, I mean, for one, they let Roger Moore be James Bond way too long. I mean, honestly, he was older than Connery when they took he's older than Connery. And so he started essentially later than Connery did in life, and then they let him do it for 15 years. So, I mean, he's pushing 60 by the time A View to a Kill comes out. I mean, he literally looks like Tanya Roberts is half his age. And very obviously half his age. So they let that go on too long. And then you bring in Timothy Dalton, who, I mean, I'm not entirely sure he was really their first choice, but he's an established actor, so you know he can do the role. And he actually, I thought, brought I don't want to say softer edge, but he was definitely seemed a little more human. So he's kind of, I don't know, I'd almost call him the emo Bond to an extent, because I mean he gets a crush on the one girl, and he sticks with that for the whole movie with The Living Daylights, and that was very un-Bond-like. I mean, Connery and Moore both as Bond, they're hitting on anything they can reach, basically. So Dalton is a little more your 80s feel, I think. And then you get to Brosnan, who's, like I said, I have a hard time getting past the sci-fi aspect. So that's kind of where I pin him. And then by the time you get to Daniel Craig, I mean, I can't, the word that keeps coming to my head is brutal.
Yeah.
he is even more of a blunt instrument than Connery ever was, and Connery had it down. So I honestly can't pick one. I can't pick a favorite. I mean, I probably like more of the Connery films, but honestly, even those dragged a bit at times. Some of those movies were a little bit longer than they should have been because I think they were trying to be mysteries, sort of. I don't know, but
Yeah.
so they're a little bit slower movies. And poor George Lazenby on Her Majesty's Secret Service is one of the most boring action movies I've ever seen. Because they were trying to have a story. They were trying to focus on story.
Yeah.
And weirdly enough, it didn't work. But yeah. So yeah, there's just so much variety in there. You can almost find whatever you want, which is I think part of why the franchise has lasted so long. It's why people still pay money to see a James Bond movie. I mean, they're gonna pay a bunch of money to see one next year.
Yeah.
At least I hope so. Jeez.
So what do y'all think about the new one? Them changing James Bond over to a girl and stuff.
This is more information than I have about the new Bond
Oh.
movie.
Okay. They've chosen a new girl, and yeah. I mean, it's cool to put a female in lead. I mean, I'll always applaud when a female can take a lead, but I feel like in a series that's kind of established themselves, where James Bond is the playboy, and you always have the Bond girls. That's just me, though. I think you're kind of messing with a chemistry you've set up since, 62?
Well, and the books were coming out in the 50s, so, I mean, you've really kind of
Yeah.
established it there to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could also argue a whole lot of misogynistic behavior, but anyway.
Yeah. I mean, it's cool. They should have just done another spy series or something, you know? It'd be like an all-male crew of Charlie's Angels. It's just not the way it was intended, you know? Or to me, like I said, send hate mail to the fake Les account on Twitter.
I don't know. I mean, I don't have a problem with a female 00. I mean, as long as they're not trying to pass her off as James Bond, that's fine.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I will say, I mean, it's, I don't know. I don't know how you would do that. I mean, yeah, it's kind of an unspoken rule that that you get a new Bond every so often, and he calls himself James Bond. To swap that out with a female, I don't know. I don't know how you would. I don't know how you would do it. I don't know how you would write that into it.
Yeah.
So the deal is that it
Well,
would.
it does change the chemistry of the shows.
Yeah,
Well, and
kind of, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
and you have to account for that somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And good luck doing it through story, because that's never really been one of the strong suits of these movies.
Yeah.
So yeah, who knows? I guess we'll find out.
Yeah,
April.
say it's
Currently, it's April.
Mm-hmm. Her name's Lashana Lynch. She kind of reminds me of Halle Berry.
We'll see. And Halle Berry, I mean, her character.
Yeah, they were going to do a spin-off with her character, but that never came.
Well, that's because by Bond standards, that movie bombed.
That's right.
Because it wasn't particularly good, and honestly, she wasn't in it enough to establish the character.
Right.
That much. But she was supposedly CIA, right? Am I remembering that right?
I don't remember.
So, I mean...
I think so. That's the one I didn't rewatch. I just remember in that orange bikini and the white belt with the knife in it coming up out of the water.
That's what a lot of people remember
Yeah.
from that movie.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the depth of character that we got from her from that movie, then I can see why they didn't manage to pull off a sequel or a spin-off.
Yeah. And I don't know, didn't she do Catwoman shortly after Bond?
I'm not sure about the timeline.
Is that
I would say that wouldn't get her off the hook either.
Right. They're saying she had better roles later on.
Before and after.
I thought she was amazing in Monster Ball.
Catwoman was a couple years after.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't exactly rate a sequel either, so, you know.
Yeah. I don't know, I guess my favorite, I'd have to go, well, other than Connery, I think I know the most about Bronson, just because that's what my kid was into, and I can't tell you how many times I've had to watch those movies. So,
And yet you still felt the need to rewatch them for this. That's admirable of you.
Mm-hmm.
with the James Bond ones, I felt that there was enough action in it to where it kept you, oh my god, you know, oh good. So yeah, I'll always stop and watch it if it's on, you know.
Yep, they're exciting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, even a bad Bond movie is still a pretty good action movie most of the time.
Yeah.
Like David Niven.
I don't think that was ever an action movie. We ought to cover that movie sometime, somehow.
We might do that.
Just because it's different enough. By the way, we're talking, if you're not aware, we're talking about the original Casino Royale film.
Ah,
The
I
one,
don't think I've.
the one with I'm blanking on the guy's name. Woody
Peter
Allen.
Sellers and Woody Allen. Yep.
Yeah. It's an interesting sight to behold.
I have not seen that.
It is very different. It is not affiliated with what we know of as James Bond.
Right.
And it is the second attempt at filming Casino Royale.
Right. The first attempt was a TV movie, I believe.
With Barry Nelson.
Yeah. A couple of years before Dr. No.
Yes.
Yes, Barry Nelson, the American.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
Just saying.
Sure.
So this was a parody of James Bond,
Which one?
Casino Royale with David Nevins.
I'm not sure parody is the word I would choose. Honestly, though, I'd have to watch it again because it's been years since I've seen it. It is definitely a
comedy version.
Yeah, I mean, I guess technically it would be definable as a parody because it's kind of making fun of some stuff involved in it, in the Bond phenomenon.
Yeah.
It has so little relation to the Bond stuff, though, that it's kind of its own thing, as I recall.
Yeah, because when I pull it up, it comes up with Johnny English and Spy Hard. I was just wondering if it was one like that.
Yeah, it essentially is.
Well, I mean, it came out. It came out in 1967, with all of the bells and whistles that comes with.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's the flower power version of James Bond in its own way, and yeah, and it's very different.
I have to watch that one again. It sounds familiar, and it has Ursula Andress in it, so I probably have seen it.
I definitely need to watch it again. It's been a long time.
Yeah, see
theme
back.
song was by Herb Alpert.
Huh.
All right. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, nothing.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. You started. Go ahead.
No,
I ain't opening that can.
I was just gonna say that's not a half bad way to go with Herb Alpert.
Mhm,
He does all right.
mhm. Any final thoughts before we wrap this up and take a quick break?
No, GoldenEye is a good movie.
Yeah,
For sure.
it really is.
It's worth the time.
Mm-hmm.
And on that note, we are going to take that said break and be back with our weekly picks. And we're back. It is time for our weekly picks, and leading off is Les.
Thank you, sir. My first choice comes from Dark Horse Comics and Steve Niles' series, Criminal Macabre, The Big Bleed Out. Another story from the Cal McDonald series. Cal McDonald is a monster killer, and in this he is found to be a vagrant with no self-esteem really to continue his monster killing career. The thing is that he's shaken because of this story, which begins with a beautiful woman who happens to be a vampire. And the progression of the story ends with a huge blowout.
Cool.
Awesome.
Nice.
Love me some Cal McDonald.
Woo. All righty, Liz.
All right. For my first pick, it's from Artists, Writers, and Artisans, Inc. I think I've told you guys about this one before. It's called Bad Mother. Bad Mother it follows April, who is pretty much like Peggy Bundy, suburban soccer mom, kind of burnt out on life. Well, then her daughter comes up missing, and she finds out that her little suburban neighborhood isn't as crisp and clean as it used to be, and puts her right on a collision course with the crime bosses of the area. So this story, it's really good. This is the fourth of the fifth. The story's almost over, so we'll see if she'll find her daughter or not. So if you haven't tried this one yet, it's really good, and it kind of shows the limits that a mother will go to for her child, you know. And plus, we kind of see April get that fire put back into her that's been snuffed out by soccer mom syndrome, you know. So definitely a good one. If you haven't picked it up, pick this one up. It's almost over. So it's definitely a wild ride so far.
Nice.
That does sound good.
Yep.
Yeah. All righty, Mike.
Alrighty. So my first pick is a little bit different. It is from IDW Publishing, but it may not be exactly a traditional comic book per se. This is called Alien Invasions: The History of Aliens in Pop Culture. And so this is a book which kind of goes through the history of, the history of aliens in pop culture. But there have been alien stories for 100 years or more, and so this kind of goes back into the history and points out some of the interesting variations on it and some examples from various media. Like, I mean, you get them in magazines mostly in the early days, and they start showing up in comics, and then you start running into them they get into TV and movies pretty quickly too. But so yeah, I mean, this is the kind of book that's just kind of right up my alley. You to learn a lot. I mean, you'll get introduced to stories you didn't know about, and learn all kinds of cool trivia facts type stuff. And so I'm looking forward to seeing this one.
Because the truth is out there.
Wow.
That's good. That's a good choice, Mike.
That is.
It was on my list, so yeah, I'm glad you picked it.
Yep.
Okay, for my first choice, it's from Marvel Comics. It's Omnibus, and this is Excalibur. This is collecting the part of the original run back in the late '80s, and this is the team of Captain Britain, Megan, Nightcrawler, Shadowcat, and Rachel Summers as the Phoenix. This was a great run, written by Chris Claremont with art by Alan Davis. This is has the special, and then the first looks like 49 issues of the run, and then the Excalibur Mojo Mayhem special, and the Excalibur Weird War 3 special. So a ton of stories in this. It was a great run. I loved this version of Excalibur. It was not one of those I expected, but when I got the one shot, the original one shot, I was like, this could be a blast. And I think, Mike, weren't you getting this book as well?
Back in the day, yeah.
Yeah.
I was. So yeah, this sounds cool to me too.
Yeah. So
be interesting to see some of that stuff again.
Yeah, it would. Now it's omnibus, so yeah, you're talking about a ton of pages, and it's going to be a higher price point, but it's going to be worth it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Alrighty, Les, you're up again.
Okay, my second choice is starring Sonia Devereaux, Volume 1. This is a collection of stories that were coming out as starring Sonia Devereaux, an actress who is listed as Hollywood's 306th best actress, and she becomes the scream queen, Sonia Devereaux. In this, you've got 4 stories, and I remember us talking about it before. It was just a fun, flippant look at Hollywood and the monster movie scene then. This one has an introduction by Fred Olen Ray, who brought you such classics as Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers and Attack of the 60-Foot Centerfold. So I'm going to recommend this because the 1 or 2 that I read were just really funny, and this is a good, lighthearted look.
Sounds cool.
Yeah, that is cool. That's awesome that Fred Olen Ray did the intro for it. That's great.
Nice. Alrighty, Liz.
All right. For my second pick, it's from Scout Comics. It's called Frank at Home on the Farm. I'm not familiar with this writer. His name's Jordan Thomas, so this may be his breakout comic. But this follows a guy from World War I. He was in the trenches, and the only thing he can think about is going back home to his farm. But when he finally gets there, his family's missing, and the only thing there on the farm is the animals. So they say this is equal parts The Shining and equal parts Twin Peaks. So I have a feeling Frank's in for quite a ride finding his family. And maybe the animals hold a secret. You never know. So this should be pretty good. Like I said, I'm excited anytime you see a new writer. Fresh blood. That could be good or that could be bad.
Wow, that sounded dark. Fresh meat.
Fresh meat. Well, I mean, The Shining and Twin Peaks, that sounds pretty dark.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, this sounds really cool.
Mhm.
Sounds could
Should
be
be interesting, yeah.
very interesting, right?
Yeah.
Alrighty, Mike.
Okay, so my second pick is from Vault Comics, and this one is called A Dark Interlude. This is issue number 1, and this is actually difficult to describe for a couple of reasons. One, it is kind of the next story after, if you're familiar, I know I talked about it a couple of times when it was coming out, but if you're familiar with Fearscape, this is kind of the continuation. And my understanding is that it is going to be somewhat different, but given what Fearscape was, that's not surprising. Fearscape was a very metafictional comic, which is it's a very different and, in my mind, interesting way of going about making a comic. It is the kind of thing that is difficult to explain, so it's probably best to just be experienced. So, in addition to that, I will throw out, if you have not checked out Fearscape, you should take a look at it and then jump straight into A Dark Interlude.
Nice. Alrighty, I'm up again, and I'm going to suggest another omnibus. And this one's from DC Comics. This is JLA by Grant Morrison. And this collects the first of his run with Howard Porter as the artist. Collects JLA 1 through 17, 22 through 26, 28 through 31, 34, 36 through 41, and a couple other one-shots. This was a fun run. This is the run from it's late 90s, early 2000s. It introduced the White Martians and brought back some of the classic Justice League villains. And it also brought essentially the team together. This is the all-star team. This Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Martian Manhunter, Aquaman, Flash, although this is Wally West at the time, and Green Lantern, although this was Kyle Rayner at the time. It was this team. I enjoyed the heck out of these stories back in the day, so it's really awesome that this has been put together, and I can't recommend it enough.
Is this the run with what was it, Tower of Babel or something?
It's later in the series, but it's that series, yes.
Okay. Yeah, that was a good story.
This is, like I said, this is the one where they introduced the whole issue of white Martians as the villains, and then the one point where they actually added basically a reserve team, which included like Oracle, Plastic Man, and several others. This was a time where Superman became the whole electric Superman as well. So that should, if that clarifies or muddies things up, you're welcome.
No, I see where you're going.
Wasn't that the sequel to Superman, Electric Superman?
Mm-hmm. Electric Boogaloo.
Superman 2, Electric, yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
anyway,
Electric Boogaloo. Yeah.
Anyway, I joke, but yeah, this sounds like fun.
So, alrighty. Special shout-outs this week?
Unfortunately, we do have one sad one. I found out this morning, I think, that Alex Trebek has passed away. If anybody recognizes that name, it's because he hosted Jeopardy for more than 30 years.
35, where I saw somewhere it's 30. It was for 35 years, yeah.
Yeah, He had announced a couple of years ago that he had cancer and continued working up until very recently. So, yeah, he's passed away now. So he definitely will be missed.
Yep.
Kind of iconic in his own way.
His own way.
I mean, he's the kind of guy that you almost don't even think of him as a game show host. He's just kind of more classy than that.
Yeah.
And yeah, very, very, very sharp guy, very witty. Did a great job at the job, for sure.
He did.
Yeah, I had read somewhere that his last day of taping was like the end of last month, and those will run out right around Christmas. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I hate to see that, but he had to. Yeah, he was supposedly in remission. Things were looking better, but things kind of unfortunately deteriorated, and it's sad to hear because I enjoyed the heck out. I inject the heck out of Jeopardy, but he made it fun. He literally, he's one of those that they talk about back in the olden days of someone you invite to your home, even if it's on the phone, even if it's on TV. Like Johnny Carson was another one. It's like it's a friend. It's a member of the family.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Condolences to his family and friends, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Any others?
Not me.
No.
The only one I can think of is the master of the malaprop.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry to see him go. I have not seen him in action in quite some time. But he will be sorely missed also.
Yeah. Yeah, Norman Crosby. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Heart failure at age 93. But so many guest appearances on TV shows back in the 60s and 70s, probably some in the 80s. Was a fixture on the Let's Go Just Free Telethon every year. It's fun to listen to him. He's one of those that's kind of a joy to kind of listen to. Yeah.
Yep.
But 93 at heart failure, good long life.
It's a pretty good run, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And condolences to his family and friends as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, we will move on to our regular shout-outs. Want to thank Pop Goes Culture Podcast Network for allowing us to be part of a great group of fellow podcasts. Definitely check them out. We'll have a link in the show notes. And we also want you to check out the fine men and women who make up Potter Family on Twitter. Great group of podcasts there as well. And the easiest way to kind of check out their work is to go to Twitter and do a search, hashtag Potter Family, one word, and knock yourselves out. Have a good time. Listen to these great people, and we love you for your support. Okay. I also want to thank Manny the Martyr for supplying the music to our podcast. Recommend you check out their music. We'll have a link in our show notes as well. And finally, you, dear listener, thank you for downloading and listening to today's episode. We appreciate your support, and we value your feedback. If you have a comment, question, suggestion, complaint, observation, what have you, we're ready to listen to you. There are several ways you can reach out to us. Our email address is email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net, or you can go to the website and go to the About Us page. There is a contact form that you can fill out. You can also contact us through our Discord. You can join our Discord, and you can send us a message that way. You can contact us through our social media. We are on Facebook, The Fellowship of the Geeks, and obviously we are on Twitter, @Fellowship Geeks. If you like to follow our personal Twitter accounts, Mike can be found @MikeyGeek. Liz can be found @LN_geek. And I can be found @TomTCGeek. And from wherever you download our episodes, if you would please take a couple moments to rate and review our show, it would be awesome. Thank you. Anything else before we say goodbye?
Just thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for listening.
Appreciate your support and hope you had a good time listening. Until next time, geek on, my friends.
We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook @The Fellowship of the Geeks and on Twitter @Fellowship Geeks. Until next time,